Hello everyone, and welcome to the extremely rare tutorial and guide that I will be doing on stims, because I think it's a great feature in the game, and a lot of people don't really know what the stims do. So I'm going to quickly go through the ones that I prefer to use in my raids, how I use them, and let's crack straight into it. So as you can see in my Terminator bag, I have most of the stims in the game. And they're divided into sections. So these 4 are medical stims. These 6 are combat stims. And these 5 are like raid stims, I would call them. So like you use them to like get better movement and stuff. So starting with the medical stims. Zagustin is going to stop bleeding, but it costs you hydration. The PNB stim and ETG stim are passive healing stims. So it'll give you numeric health at the cost of usually your hydration. So the PNB stim is better than the ETG because you get less energy drain at the cost of like not being able to whiff as many shots due to health and vitality loss. But that only lasts 180 seconds. So most of the time when you use these stims, you are already in a pinch. So the other combat stims that are really good, these 2 stop bleedings. So I think the AFH1 is probably the better of the 2. Although this one, the Zagustin, allows you to whiff some with the vitality boost for 180 seconds. Sometimes they bug out though, and they don't stop bleedings, even though it says it's supposed to. So those are the combat stims. I would say you want these stims and a Propitol in every raid, or at least one of each of these stims, the healing and the bleeding stims. Very nice to have. Moving on to the combat stims. I don't usually use them. Starting with the SJ1. I just picked this one up for crafting SJ6s because I'm always running SJ6s and Trimidols so I can get into places faster. All it does really is give you like better stats, the SJ1, but these stims are just better because it helps you run more for longer. And you can combine these 2 to get a crazy boost at the beginning of the raid and get that advantageous positioning that you might need for a map like Shoreline, where you're running right to Resort. So, moving on. This is the one stim that I would recommend if you're trying to do these running routes and you can't afford any other ones. The Abdalbus stim and the Abdalbus 2 stim will give you some passive boosts that could be very useful for a combat situation. So SJ12 and SJ9, these are thermal counteracting stims. You're going to use those to lower your body temperature and avoid being spotted by thermals. I would say these stims are best used on woods. Moving on to the L1 and P22. These ones are combat stims. They just like let you whiff some at the cost of some of your skills. So I don't really use those, but I could see how wanting to take more damage before a gunfight could be pretty useful, especially if you've already taken hits or your armor's gone. Moving on. The XTG-12 antidote, really you just use it for cultists. Like, I've never been meleeed by one of these knives, but I'm sure it's pretty deadly. Alright, my favorite stims currently, and this will be the last part of the video. So we have this one, which boosts your stamina recovery for 240 seconds. So it doesn't look like it lasts that long, but the benefits are really actually the skill, attention, and perception, because it'll let you loot things way faster. This can be very useful when you're in a high density loot area and you've already popped an SJ6 and a Trimidol to get there first. Now you need to loot fast too. So usually my loot runs, I use these 3 almost at the beginning of the raid. Now these 2 stims, and maybe even the Abdalbus, these you can use to get out of your raids. And I highly recommend using the Meldonin if you're overweight. So these can be alternatives to the Mule stim, and I kind of consider them in the same regard. So if you are in a combat situation and you expect to get shot at, but you still need like a little bit of extra strength and you're not too overweight enough to use a Mule stim, where the weight limit is going to really affect you, the Meldonin will give you the boost that you need for strength to carry more stuff, and endurance and stamina recovery. Very, very nice early wipe for those streets runs where you got a full bag, you've been looting the whole raid, but you just got to get out. Or maybe you're just still looting, but like you're just on the way. Perfect stim for that. You'll get inertia less. Excellent stim, A+. Abdalba stim, B-. The main reason is it causes bleeding and it really doesn't help you that much. So the way that the Abdalba stim works, it gives you a random effect out of this whole list. And it could be any of them. You could get +10 strength, and you could get -20 attention. You'll start looting slower. I mostly just use this stim to get out of raids faster, even though it doesn't really work as well as in Meldonin. Now on to the special stim that I was using early wipe all the time because, you know, in Tarkov it really does feel like you're a one-tap most of the time. So you can capitalize on that by taking this stim that lasts 15 minutes and boosts all your skills at the cost of taking damage. So if you really just need to get out of a raid, this is the one stim that you need to book it as fast as you can. And with that, I'll wrap up my stim guide. I hope you enjoyed. I hope this was helpful. I'm about to do some shoreline runs, and you already know I'm using the Trimadol on SJ6 and then the -TG to start looting.